I'm a little busy. So yesterday was the semifinals for my drama competition, and unfortunately my school isn't going on. I had to put on my screen more than I expected to because I'm so late right now. I'm way too late for my own health day. I swear. But yeah, and I'm not even mad that we're not going to the finals. I'm mad that of one of the schools that did go to finals, because I don't think they deserved it at all, because the school put on the play called Spring Awakening, and it's originally a 3-hour musical, and for Drama Fest you have to have it 40 minutes or less. Less is better. And so if you take a 3-hour play, musical, turn it into like 40 minutes or less, you're taking so much out of it, which was one of the worst parts of it. But that wasn't even like really bad. Like, what made it worse was the acting and like how it just kind of went, like how it went through. Because pretty much this is how it started. Everybody went into a vignette, and if you don't know what vignette and stuff, if you don't understand theater things, I'm sorry. I more know theater terms, so forgive me. Which is pretty much like a frozen picture using people in the play. And so they kind of froze, and the girl kind of goes to her mother, and she's 14 and a half years old. And she took off her dress, and then I see the guys that were supposed to be frozen in place move their heads to look at her in her bra and the like kind of short thing. And I hated that because they went out of character. And what made it worse is that they should have been used to it if they practiced it so many times. And plus, in Boy Pro, we change in the same room. We've seen each other pretty much in bras and underwears or just in boxers. We've seen each other just like that. And so we should be used to it. So when I saw that, I was like, seriously? And I understood why she took off the dress, because when you're with your mother, you're usually comfortable with that. At least for girls. I don't know how guys work. And her mother was like getting her a new dress, and this was set in the 1900s, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah. So that was one of the problems. And then the girl like doesn't want the dress because it's so long, so she keeps the one that she has. And then and then they skip to the next thing, which is two boys, and they pretty much ended up talking about boners and sex. And one was really awkward about it, while the other one acted like it happened every single day. Like it was casual. And so they kind of talked, and then went under like the set thing, but you could see them there, and they froze so we can go to the next thing, which was the 14-year-old girl and a couple of her friends. And they're kind of just talking. And then somehow the girl started talking about how she gets beat by her father. Sorry, there's like a moth. Like, I just see a moth just crawling. I want to kill it in a cave. So, sorry if I keep looking over there. And how bad it was and stuff like that. And then they started talking about boys. I don't know where they started talking about boys. Yeah. And then, the two of her friends leave, and then she goes down, and the awkward boys left, so it's just her and the boy who was really casual about it. And pretty much, she picked up a stick and asked him to beat her up because she's never been beaten before. I'm just like, what? Like, what is wrong with you? Why would you want to be beaten? And you know, he hits her, and she's like, I don't feel anything. Hits her again, I don't feel it. And then does it again. That's just a pat. Hit me harder. And then he hits her really hard, pushes her, and then screams. And I'm just like, what? Because there's a story behind it. There's a reason why he did that. But it wasn't portrayed. But yeah, and then it goes to the girl talking to her mother, asking like where baby comes from. And her mom's like, when you really love somebody and you're married and you really love them, you kind of just show it. But she didn't say like how you can conceive a baby. And so the next thing is her with the boy again, and he pretty much ends up raping her. But this is her, no, stop, no, and I'm just like, because honestly, in America, the rate of being raped is 1 out of 10 people. How many people were there? Was so many. So that must have hit a lot of people in there. If 1 out of every 10 people has been raped. Honestly. And so it must have hit a lot of people. But she didn't portray being raped. She's 14 and a half years old and she got raped. And she's like, no, stop, da da. And then he leaves and she's like, and then she goes to her mom. And then that's like the next thing. And then she's with her mom and there's the doctor there because she wasn't feeling well. And she turns out to be pregnant, but she doesn't know that because the doctor didn't tell her, but the doctor told the mother. And then, and she's saying how she's gonna die and stuff. And I'm like, no, you're not gonna die. And then it goes to the scene where that awkward boy, pretty much, random girl came out of nowhere. I don't know. She's all really happy, and then she started talking about her friend, who she stayed over for like about 2 weeks, had a gun, and had it loaded every single night, and said, I could kill you with a blink of an eye. And she sounded so happy about it, and then she kissed the boy, and then he's like, nah, Brad, nah, like, it's not right. And then she ends up doing it again, and says, I'll see you tomorrow. And then he goes down and he's talking about how miserable his life is. And he commits suicide. It did this, and it was supposed to go into blackout so he could shoot it upwards. But the blackout didn't happen, so he shot upwards in the light, and then it went to blackout, and then to the next one that was supposed to happen after he did that. So that was a mess up. I'm learning that a little bit more on the lighting, but also because he was out of the lighting, so you couldn't really see him when he was talking about killing himself, and he was in a freaking cemetery when he killed himself. Like, that's sad. And then the next thing is the girl. We're back to the 14-and-a-half-year-old girl, and I don't know how I got confused. A woman came named Mrs. Smith, and then the mother pushes her against the table and forces her to get an abortion. And then she dies. She just dies. And then the ending, which he was pretty much choosing between life and death. As a film. And he ended up walking with life. But he was friends with death, because death was portrayed through his dead friend that committed suicide. And life was portrayed through a man who was actually sitting in the back the whole entire time, decked out in white. His face was white, he had a white mask for the top half of his face, his hair was white, everything was white. And he represented life. But yeah, and I just, with my play, was about war. And so we had to respect people we were portraying, and we had to be mature about it. And I feel like Spring Awakening would have been way better if they had been mature about it and if they respected who they're portraying. But they didn't. They honestly didn't. And when they cut out the play, they cut out a lot of the comic relief of the play. So it was more of a dark, depressing play. And the way they did it kind of made suicide seem like a good thing. And it's really not. They just really emphasized suicide, and they made it seem like it was wonderful, and it's not a wonderful thing. And when we asked, pretty much, how did they feel about, like, doing the play and stuff like that, and by the way, they didn't even choose the play they did, which is really sad, but, they pretty much said that it was fun. Nothing is fun about going into a dark, depressing place in your heart and portraying somebody who's raped, somebody who is a rapist, somebody who is so depressed that they committed suicide, nothing, and a mother who pretty much has something wrong with her in order for her not to be able to talk about pregnancy. That would not be fun in any way, shape, or form. Or getting beaten. None of it is fun, so I don't see why they said it was fun. Because honestly, I would be really depressed. I would. And so many people cried, not because it was a good play, but because it reminded them of things. Literally, last year, a friend of mine committed suicide. Honestly. And, you know, it hit me right here, but I didn't cry. Because I was, like, kind of, like, this. Like, I was sad, but I didn't cry. And what made me cry that day was when I was on the bus and everybody's yelling. Because we honestly did not understand why they went through it. And everybody being so mad and bad energy made me cry. That's really sad. And I just wanted to know, like, why that was exactly. But yeah, and if you didn't understand what I was saying, due to the fact that I was kind of used a couple of theater terms, I believe. But yeah, I have to go, so I love you, my little dinosaur.